From YouTube's World News headquarters in Berlin, The Lately Show with Florian Strzeletz.
Welcome back to The Lately Show in our international edition, where we usually take a look over the fence almost every time with me, YouTube's Florian Strzeletz. 1 year ago, the United Kingdom held a referendum about leaving the European Union and, surprise, they're going to leave. Although many started protesting, the British government is willing to leave the EU somehow, sometime. But what does it mean when Great Britain leaves the EU, and what does it mean to the EU? And especially, how fast can Amazon Prime deliver the outboard engine so Great Britain can get as fast as possible to America to find their fortune there again? And that leads us to the follow-up question: is Donald Trump tolerating another queen besides his daughter Ivanka? But is the European Union really as bad as all their critics, especially those from the UK, are saying? One fun fact is that those critics got elected and are all sitting in the parliament in Europe and are getting paid by the European Union. They got paid by the institution they wanted to destroy, which is totally to not practice what one preaches. One of these douchebags is Nigel Farage, the cover boy of this year's Dentist Nightmare with a story of teeth, when yellow is the new white. Nigel Farage and his party UKIP have done everything to make Britain leave the EU, to free the UK from the slobbery clause of the EU. Clause so ugly that Great Britain could only do cherry picking for about 40 years, which seems totally unfair to Great Britain and the UKIP. Sadly, in the end it wasn't UKIP which made the Brexit. It was a Tory Prime Minister, David Cameron, who thought by doing a referendum about the exit of the UK, he could silence all the anti-EU movement. Which looks in retrospective like giving a 15-year-old teenager, who is known for masturbating, the key to the pawn shop. And wondering later why he died because of getting dehydrating. David Cameron, who said whatever this referendum brings, he will implement this ASAP, which is British for if I lose, I'm going to give a fuck and resign. So his successor, Theresa May, had to do the exit, the Brexit. So the referendum took place in June 2016, and just a few days, really just a few days later, Theresa May did the exit.
On Tuesday, May signed the official letter to the European Council President, which will trigger the UK's withdrawal from the European Union. May said leaving the EU is only part of her vision for Britain's economic success.
Those few days were only just 10 months later, which is totally cool because Theresa and her cabinet needed time for a plan how to Brexit. Of course, first she looked up on Amazon if there was, for example, a dummy guide for Brexit, but there wasn't. And after finding out that even on Craigslist there was no one who could help her, Theresa had to do the Brexit on her own by writing a letter to the EU, because you can only exit the EU by activating Article 50 of the Lisbon Agreement. She needed a few drafts for this letter, and I don't know why, but we here at the show are the only ones who got their hands on these drafts. Not the New York Times or even the Washington Post got them, but we. And now I'm proud to do this world exclusive. We are showing these no longer missing drafts of Theresa May's letters to the EU. For example, her first draft. Dear EU, we're going to leave. Sincerely, Theresa. Nicely written on napkin from McBurger. Or the second draft. Yo Janka, we're out, bitch. Mic drop and peace out. Kinda strange was this draft. Johannes, King of the EU, Janka, and Her Holiness Madame Merkel, we are totally sorry, but go fuck yourself, God saves the Queen. And finally, this is the copy of the letter Theresa May really sent to Donald Tusk for leaving the EU. To whom it may concern in the EU, we are not going to be part of the EU anymore, but of course we still insist to get all the benefits we had as a member. And if you don't answer to his letter in between 1 second, everything in this letter counts. Period. Heart, Theresa. As I said before, we are the only ones in the whole world who had these drafts. World exclusive, and I think it shows why. Now the EU and the United Kingdom have only 2 years for doing all the talks for leaving the EU, which is a lot of stuff, and only 2 years because that is fixed in the Article 50 of the Lisbon Agreement. And after the 2 years, Great Britain will automatically leave the EU, with or without any agreement between both of them. 2 years are not much time, and an agreement is very important. And with that in mind, both sides of course start the negotiation right away, and both are going to be gentle, and no one will have any false beliefs about the Brexit. So I guess it's time for a good cup of tea.
We will be there to negotiate the right deal, but what I have said is no deal is better than a bad deal.
Okay, that sounds not so good. I thought that having a deal is better than nothing, because Theresa May told the British people that a good deal is going to be easy for the UK, that it will be a Brexit à la carte. I guess it's time for something stronger than tea.
Ein Drittstaat, und das wird Großbritannien sein, kann und wird nicht über die gleichen Rechte verfügen oder womöglich sogar besser gestellt werden können als ein Mitglied der Europäischen Union. Doch ich muss das leider hier so deutlich aussprechen, denn ich habe das Gefühl, dass sich einige in Großbritannien darüber noch Illusionen machen. Das aber wäre vergeudete Zeit.
Okay, now it seems that the Brexit is not going to be a walk in the park. When Angela Merkel is saying so harsh things about the British government, something is completely going wrong. Because Angela Merkel is best known for being the last person on earth saying anything about anything. Her campaign slogan for the election this year in Germany is, "If you don't ask me, I won't ask you either." But Theresa May calling the nuclear option right in the beginning is very hard. If you don't give us anything, we still give you nothing, which is only bad for us. Or as Winston Churchill once said, attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference. And my attitude is always better, even better than yours. And if you say something, I can't hear you. La 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 la. I guess with the United Kingdom on the one side and the European Union on the other side, there are two complete different worlds are clashing right now, and with a headache as big as drinking a lot of whiskey. The main problem is, if you're leaving the EU, you cannot have all the benefits like a full member. Your best case scenario is to have an agreement like Norway or the Switzerland. But both agreements took a lot of time, a lot more than 2 years. And with a status like Norway, you have still to pay into the European budget and you have to implement all laws the EU makes. Period. But Theresa May is suggesting to the British people that she has all the power in her hand and that the EU will do a kowtow. That Great Britain is sitting on a longer level, and everyone in Europe is wondering where the hell is this level.
We do not seek to adopt a model already enjoyed by other countries. We do not seek to hold on to bits of membership as we leave. No, the United Kingdom is leaving the European Union, and my job is to get the right deal for Britain as we do.
But it would be false for the European Union to be arrogant in this Brexit, cocky about the British government, because everything Theresa May is fucking up right now is not going to be her problem. It is the problem of the British people, and they have to pay for it in the end. And Europe isn't really known to do things better than the Tories right now. Hey, let's look at Greece and how we fail there every time. Of course, the UK cannot have more rights after Brexit as Norway or the Switzerland. Everything else would send the wrong signals that would help fucking right-wing douchebags like Wilders in the Netherlands or Le Pen in France. But to snub the UK is also not the solution. We have to leave the door open that one day the UK can come back to the European Union. One day, someday. And to be honest, a country like Germany, who is leading the EU somehow right now, would need a partner like the UK who would be the counterpart to it. And that can only be the UK. A United Kingdom who doesn't see Europe as a colony. A United Kingdom which sees Europe as a chance. But now we are going to go through an ugly divorce process between London and Brussels. But maybe this will take so long that in the end no one really remembers anymore about why they started talking in the past. And everything stays the same. And I guess a good cup of coffee and a big shot of alcohol would boost that very well. The Lately Show. Join or never mind.